Overall goal today, simplify health. So I'm going to go through what I've found over the years as the 5 things that we just need to put in place that aren't optional, they're essential to health. And that's one of the big focuses. And then more importantly, in what order do we need to focus on them is kind of, I think, what's helped people get well faster. Growing up, just to get healthy, the first 2 things that would come to mind, like if your doctor said you need to get healthier, what would be the first 2 things or one thing that you would start to implement, just in a very broad sense? Diet, right?
Exercise.
And exercise, right? And so in our hierarchy of getting well, that's number 3 and number 4. So what happens is we skip over some of the 2 of the most important things, in my opinion, that I've seen people get results with. And we're going to go through that. So number 3 is nutrition, number 4 is fitness, and then 5 is minimizing toxins or detoxing the body, which is another popular thing that people want to detox. But you'll find, or you'll see when I go through this, if you skip 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, they're very difficult for the body to even do, okay? So we'll hit that. So that's where we call this a 5 Essentials Equipping class, make things simple. The other thing I want to make sure of is to simplify it from a time perspective and a money perspective, because we want to spend the least amount of money and the least amount of time when it comes to health as well. So we'll walk you through where you can put that most effectively. Make sure this is on. All right, these are the 5, and as mentioned, not optional. Mindset, number 1, nerve supply and just how the body functions, number 2, nutrition, fitness, and detox. And then I'm huge on breaking things into the most minute and then expanding it out. So for example, to get well, we start with the cell instead of focusing on an organ or the whole body, right? So if somebody has heart-related issues, we don't need to just focus on the heart, we need to focus on the cells that make up the heart, the tissues that make up the grouping of cells, then finally the heart, then finally the whole body, and kind of structure it that way. So within these 5 essentials, mindset being one for a very specific reason. I've worked with patients in the past where if they don't feel like they're gonna get well here, a lot of what we teach doesn't matter. Like if you guys leave here today and it's just like, oh cool, I learned some information, and there's zero implementation, there's zero thought change or belief change in your mind, the body just can't force itself to get well. We have to think about that first. And I'm gonna touch on some of that and kind of show you some cool things that we've learned about the brain. But what's amazing about our brain is we know very little about it, and it is still incredibly amazing even with the little that we know about it. Okay, so we'll hit on that. Some tools that we have that you guys might not be aware of, I put on the screen there. So make sure you plug into some of this stuff. Of course, we have a cookbook, and don't let Dr. Allison take all the credit for that. I got 20 recipes in that book. We have supplements, which I'm going to talk about supplements. I'm not a supplement salesman. I'm not here to say everybody needs to take all kinds of supplements, but I will tell you this, with a lot of testing that I've done, we can't eat enough to get what our body actually requires nowadays. So we'll talk about what are the basic ones and where do you start. And then are there patients that do need 9, 10, 11 supplements initially? Yes, unfortunately. Why? Because we've screwed up for so long that we've been missing supplement or basic nutrients for an extended period of time. We have our website, which we're adding more content to that all the time. So make sure it's cfc4health.com. Everybody should have access to that. And then on Facebook, if you're a Facebook person, have a tribe that we're going to be posting even this. So if there's things that I say that you didn't catch, we're going to post it on there. It's Columbia Family Chiropractic Tribe. You guys all have access because it's a private tribe, so nobody else gets on that. Dr. Allison hosts a cooking show every single Monday, which is really cool. And then Dr. Sydney does a workout class every Wednesday. So that these are all things that you guys can plug into. And then spinal home care is something that I'll touch on. Some of you guys have it, some of you guys don't, but I'll mention that's your toothbrush and floss. That's the stuff that keeps you from seeing us as frequently as you need to. And the more you do of that, the better. Okay? So, essential 1. And again, stop me at any point. But mindset, we understand that our beliefs turn into our thoughts, and then this turns into what our results are, actions. I read an awesome book back probably 10, 15 years ago that I'd put in my top 5 books, and it was called The Fourth Dimension. It was written in the 1970s, maybe 1980s, so it's an older book. It was by a pastor out of Korea who, I think it was the largest church in the world at the time, the largest following, if you will, at the time from a Christian standpoint. And it was amazing. So what he talked about was the work of the world that we see is in the 3D, meaning I can see this marker, right? But before this marker became a marker, guess what had to happen first? It had to be thought about, which is what he called the fourth dimension. And he had different things that are basically like spoken word, thoughts, dreams, that essentially our prayer life, our spiritual life, the things that we don't actually have in front of us, but there's a world that's working around us that if we don't think about it first, we can't create it. So now this is important for health because what are some of the things that we think about or tell ourselves? I can't lose weight. I'm fat. You don't understand, Dr. Tom, my family has a history of fill in the blank, right? And what we're doing is we're just creating roadmaps in our mind that aren't necessarily true. They're just our belief about what we've been told, right? Now, I'm going to go somewhat deep for a second here and say this. The body itself, our education as doctors and as just society at this point, we don't know enough about the body and never will. The only thing that does whatever you believe in, whether it's God or the Big Bang, is this universal intelligence. So God, when the design of the body occurred, it was intelligently designed. Is that fair? Science is here. The body is way up here in its advancements and nature, and just look at nature itself. It doesn't need coaching and it doesn't need education. But what we're doing is we're taking our education of the limited amount that we have and applying it to the infinite wisdom of the body, right? And it'll never catch up. So what I struggle with a lot, especially when people, when we're looking at research, and even nowadays, where you guys see it with the news, and nobody in this room, including me, knows what the heck is true or false based on the stats that were being presented, the research that's out there, who's providing it, is it real, is it not? And then even if it is, quote unquote, real with the science right now, does that mean it's accurate 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now? So when things come on the market and they're proven and people go, hey, we've actually studied this and here's the peer-reviewed journals, awesome right now, right? But 10 years later when we learn something new about the body, what happens to that? So guys, don't get too hung up on people that look at the research, look at the literature, look at this. Here's what I like. I like principles. I like things that don't need research, right? So when I talked about those 5 things, those 5 essentials, do you guys need more research on spinach? Or is that always going to be good, right? Do you need more research on movement, exercise? That's always going to be something, drinking water, right? Getting enough rest. These are what we call principles that aren't going anywhere. The problem is, us in this room, me included, we're not doing great at just the simple. We're trying to learn about hey, this new article came out and I need to take this specific supplement for 14 days and go to the bathroom this many times and then I'm going to be healthy, right? And we just need to go back to, am I getting enough rest? Did I drink enough water? What's my spiritual life look like right now? What are the simple things that we need to do? So I love that. Self-talk to me, extremely important, and on the golf course, it's extremely important. What we say about ourselves, you start seeing. So whether we believe it or not, it works, okay? So you may look in the mirror and go, I am overweight, but your subconscious is bigger than your conscious. It doesn't understand logic, okay? So whatever you say to it, it finds. And I want to touch on what's called the reticular activation system. And I'm not going to get too sciencey on this, but it is something very cool that our body has. Have you guys ever decided to do something, purchase something, say a house, say a car, and let's use the car example. When you guys decided in your mind at some point that you're going to buy a new car, what did you start seeing everywhere?
The car you were looking for.
The car you were looking for. The color of the car dealerships, signs, advertisements, commercials, the radio. Why is that? Did those just all of a sudden show up? Or did you just create a map or a program in your mind that your subconscious started looking for, seeking out? See how cool that is? Like if I lose my keys and I start thinking about retracing where it is, and heck, I might not find them. But then 4 hours later, it's like, oh, I put them next to my bed, right? I wasn't consciously thinking for 4 hours, where are my keys? But what was my subconscious doing? It was the Google search engine looking for all the stuff that my body processes. Our conscious brain can only deal with very minimal things at once. Like in this room right now, there's noise, you're sitting on a chair, so you're feeling something, there's smells, but what your conscious does is it breaks it down into what's the most important right now. The subconscious has to take in everything, right? And then the filter starts to occur. Now, kids with autism and the autistic spectrum, this is what they struggle with. They hear, see, smell, all of that, and you can see why everything's so stimulating to them is because that filter is broken down, if you will, okay? So I want to do something real quick. I want you guys to look around the room at anything that's blue in the room. Okay? Just find everything that's blue that you see. All right, now close your eyes and name something that's brown. See where I'm going with this? You could name something very easily that's blue because it got placed into your mind and you were seeking that out. Not that, I mean, there's brown stuff. It's just that you filtered that out. So changing your filters is huge. And this is where, again, why I start with this is understanding that you can be well, understanding that your body was designed for health and not designed for disease. Don't believe a singular doctor, even a group of doctors. If it doesn't sit well with your innate wisdom, you seek out others. You keep looking. You start making decisions for you about your health because, again, they are simple. Now, they're the quote-unquote experts, supposedly, but you guys all still have that gut wisdom that goes, something doesn't sound right about taking a medication the rest of my life. Right? Not to say that, again, sometimes we've screwed up something or we've had a part taken out of us that there might be a requirement that is a lifelong requirement. So I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like the people that are like, I've taken an aspirin every single day because my doctor told me to, and it's a rest of my life sort of thing. Guys, to me, that doesn't make sense. There are other things that can mimic that in nature versus like I had my, kidney removed and I need to take a certain medication. That's a different story, right? But we got to start changing the stories and we got to start changing our limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs are just, again, what we say that's not necessarily true, but we believe it to be true. I can't lose weight. I hate running. These are all things I'm in too much pain to. So just be careful with that, and then we start creating a new map. Now, I also, early on in my career, and this sounds a little hokey, but I love vision boards and goal boards. I love in the morning waking up and seeing what I want. Meaning, if it's your dream house, if it's your dream car, if it's a helicopter, if it's a pile of money, if it's health, if it's a body, shape. Cut out pictures, see things that inspire you, quotes that inspire you, things that you can read that when you wake up or go to bed, you're plugging and programming yourself into seeing that. The body will seek it, whether we want to or not. But on the other side of that, what will it also do if we're watching the news, if we're around a lot of negative people, if we're reading things that are bad, if we're watching films that are bad, if we're listening to music that is bad, if we're playing video games that are bad? You're seeing it with the kids, and you're seeing this all the time, that we're just surrounded by so much fear and negativity that it creates a lot of issues. So mindset being crucial. Hopefully you guys understand that. Now I have all these little stopping points I want you guys to write down something that you're going to do for your mind this week. Okay, and it might be a 5-minute just decompression at the end of the day. It might be something you're going to write positive affirmations. So a tool that we would use in the past was write down, whatever your limiting belief is, I can't lose weight, and write down the reverse of that. It is easy for me to lose weight. I lose weight very simply. I lose weight every day. Now, I'll take it another step, because this is another thing just mindset-wise. This is a little bit more specific. is losing weight actually isn't necessarily the right terminology. Removing weight is a better term. Why removing versus losing? When you lose something, what does your brain think?
Negative.
Negative, and like if you lose your keys, what's the brain want to do?
Find it.
Find it. So this is where sometimes weight fluctuates because we lose it and find it, lose it and find it, versus I want to remove it. I want to remove weight, if that's the thought there. Create a vision board. So just start looking for things and surround yourself with people that find that stuff for you.